This is the story of how you are being conned, how it came to be, and how you can finally stop it. This Neil Scott political network, like all con artists, use deceptive methods to convince their victim, you, in this case, to give them your tax money, so they can double or triple it and bring you a return. They promise to bring you a profit and jobs to the region. Get excited. Think big. They say. Invest in their scam they call Forward Corpus Christi, or a good-sounding ploy called Destination Bayfront. So you give them the promissory note, they go round the block, and you await the return, a return that will never come. Hold on. Did you bother to check their credentials, their track history? Ah, no. Do they have degrees in economics or economic development? Ah, no. Did you see an objective feasibility study? Ah, no. Has one of the major projects they have sold to you before worked? Ah, no. Then why? Why would you sign away millions of tax dollars to put in such a risky venture, a venture that time and time again has failed? You might state, oh, I went along because it sounded good. You see, that when you don't do your research, and merely rely on propaganda, or the regional media that is tied in with them, that is, the Loyd NEAL-Mark&Carol Scott network, you become controllable, very controllable, and unquestioning. The Neil Scott network for profit are hired by a ruling elite club of bankers, builders, and corporate business, a shadow-type government. The Neil Scott network is composed of sitting politicians and their minions that are using your tax dollars to become wealthy. They are the worst role models. They are con artists, plain and simple. They are hired by an elite that has controlled the city for too long, and hide amid the board of directors of the Corpus Christi Regional Economic Development Corporation. They hire the Neil Scott network, that is, big business, banks and construction companies and so forth, hire the network to convince the taxpayer, you, to pass bonds and give them the authorization to go out for certificates of obligations or loans, that is money you do not have, to pay their buddies to build things for you, things you will pay for and not own anyway, such as the American Bank Center, Hamburger Field, construction projects in downtown. If the taxpayers do not support them, they frighten them. The Neil Scott will claim that the city will not grow, that you must not love your children enough because the city will become a place that no one wants to visit, that the city will become a ghost town. The contradiction is, you cannot threaten a tree to produce more fruits. You cannot threaten a hen to lay more eggs or you will shoot it, but you can threaten a human being, a taxpayer, to give you his fruit and his eggs by threatening him or her. These human ploys and self-service by this network have been the most profitable and most destructive shams employed in the history of Corpus Christi. The Neil Scott network for profit cannot be rationally understood until it is seen for what it is, a series of deceptive ploys, where the scam artists get rich off your tax dollars. They're like bees constantly pollinating flowers, sucking the sap of the fruit. Some taxpayers get confused because these scammers got elected to public office. Loyd Neal is the county judge. Mark Scott is a city councilman. And his wife, the notorious Carol Scott, is in the school board. James Dewar sits in the Del Mar College Board of Regents. Some imagine they are doing some honorable, benevolent work for the community. Nothing could be further from the reality. They are even given awards for charitable causes when it is the furthest thing from the truth. These members of the network speak out about economic growth and better education, not because they care about you or your children, but because they want to increase their profits by earning your trust. Are you starting to see the con job they have done on you? Make no mistake about it. The projects known as Bridge Corpus Christi, where Loyd Neal sits on the main board, or Destination Bayfront, where the Scotts are poking eyes. They are all marketing scams to convince you to make them and their buddies rich. Listen, projects built on loans covered by tax dollars are not progress, it is debt. It is taking place in the tax burden of your children and their children's children. Let's examine their history. The Neil Scott Network sold us, the American Bank Center, Whataburger Field, Packery Channel. You voted and gave their buddies the power to spend millions of your tax dollars, millions that were borrowed from banks, and you promised to pay for it. Millions you gave to building contractor friends, Joe Fulton Construction, Berry Construction, American Bank, Frost Bank, and so forth. Have you asked, where is the return? Did you know, American Bank Center is losing over $1 million per year? Where is the profit they promised you? You gave these scam artists your money. They went around the block, and never returned with the profits and positive return. They, to put it in 3 words, poked your eye.